What's going on, duelists? It's your boy Nick, bringing you today on the channel the long-awaited update to my Mutant GHOTI deck profile for the post-Phantom Nightmare format. For those of you new to the channel, welcome. My name is Nick. We do Yu-Gi-Oh! Content mainly focused around rogue and casual decks alike. If that's the kind of Yu-Gi-Oh! That you're interested in, then I highly encourage for you to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on any more of my uploads. We're currently working our way to 1,500 subscribers, and I need your help to get there. So if you like the, less common and off-the-wall stuff in Yu-Gi-Oh!, then this channel is absolutely perfect for you. We do deck profiles, live duel videos, combos and test hand videos, the whole works. So there's definitely going to be something here for you to enjoy. So like I said, like and subscribe if you haven't already. And now let's jump into the meat and potatoes of why you're actually here. Mutant GHOTI, one of the deck profiles that my channel is best known for. And I know a lot of you guys have been wanting this profile ever since the GHOTI support was revealed from Phantom Nightmare, and I'm glad to say that at time of recording, the set has officially released, and you can now go out to your local Target, Walmart, or wherever and pick up your either packs or boxes of your Phantom Nightmare product. So, there's two brand new GHOTI cards as you see here before you. This is Keef, Merc of the GHOTI, and Sykes, Moonlight of the GHOTI. They're two brand new main deck monsters for the theme, and they help the theme out immensely. So before we dive into the specifics of how they work, you know how we do here on the channel. We're going to start off with the monster lineup first. Now this is a 43 card deck list. And like I said, this is just Mutant GHOTI post Phantom Nightmare. So hopefully you guys enjoy the spice that I'm bringing to you today. So with that being said and the intro out of the way, we're starting off with a playset of Mutant MO5. Pretty much the best starter in the mutant theme. Upon normal or special summon, it allows you to add a mutant monster from deck to hand. And then as a secondary effect, you contribute this card and banish a card from your hand or face-up field to special summon the appropriate mutant boss based on the type of card banished, whether it was monster, spell, or trap. Now, interestingly enough, the reason why I slotted GHOTIs in with mutants originally is because mutants have this thing where all of their starters require you to banish cards, whether you control in your hand, to get to their boss monsters. And none of the mutant cards, unironically, in Archetype, do anything when banished, despite how frequently you actually banish your own resources. And when GHOTIs came out, they didn't really have good ways to get themselves banished. So the two themes kind of, filled each other's gaps and really shored up the weaknesses and, played to each other's strengths. So this is why we paired GHOTI with Mutant to begin with. So obviously you max out on a playset of MO5, basically the best starter in the Mutant theme. Definitely helpful as well that he is also a psychic monster. Up next we have two copies of Mutant ST46. Now unlike MO5, upon normal or special, ST46 allows you to grab a mutant spell or trap. In addition to that, it does have the exact same secondary effect as MO5, where it contributes itself for cost, as well as banish a card from your hand or field, to then special summon the appropriate mutant boss based on the type of card banished. So obviously ST46 is just as good as MO5. However, we'll only play two of it just for consistency reasons, and we wanted to keep the deck count pretty low. Up next is one copy of Mutant Mutant. Now, Mutant Mutant's a very good card for the deck. The only reason why we play one of it is because you can constantly recycle this card through like the Mutant Field spell, being able to special it from the Banish Zone and whatnot. But basically, if you control a Mutant card, you're able to special summon this card from your hand. Keep in mind, you can search this off of MO5. In addition to that, this card allows you to banish a Mutant card from your hand or deck once you tribute itself. And it lets you special summon the appropriate mutant boss based on the type of card banished. Now what's interesting is that Mutant Mutant is the only one that allows you to banish the resources from the hand or the deck, which makes him less neggy than like MO5 or ST46 are. However, the caveat to this is that once you special summon the appropriate monster, you take damage equal to that monster's original attack. So, you lose a little bit of life points, but you're effectively able to get one of your bosses out of the deck without having to banish cards from your hand or field, which is pretty cool in my opinion. So one copy of Mutant Mutant's more than enough. Then up next, the mutant bosses themselves. We play two copies of Beast. He's the one that you special summon from hand or deck by banishing a monster with your mutant starters. So that's why we play two of it, because obviously this is a Mutant GHOTI deck. You're, for the most part, going to be banishing a lot of monsters to, activate their effects. So that's why we play two copies of Beast. Then we do play one Mist, followed by one Arsenal. Mist, you special summon by banishing spells. Arsenal, you special summon by banishing traps. Now, all of these cards have their own forms of protection. Beast cannot be targeted by monsters. Mist cannot be targeted by spells, and Arsenal cannot be targeted by traps, which is pretty cool. In addition to that, they each have their own individual effects at the cost of banishing cards that you either in your hand or that you control for cost. They're all quick effects. In Beast's case, if a spell card or spell effect is activated, you can banish a card from your hand or field. To negate the activation, banish that spell. Mist, if a trap or trap effect is activated, you can banish a card from your hand or field to draw 2 cards. And then Arsenal, if a monster effect is activated, you can banish a card from your hand or that you control to then target a monster on the field and banish it. So they're all very strong and have very great removal effects. In addition to that, they also all float upon destruction. Beast allows you to grab one of your banished mutant traps and add it back to your hand. Mist allows you to grab a banished mutant monster and add it to hand. And then Arsenal allows you to grab a banished mutant spell and add it to your hand. So these are the mutant bosses that obviously the MO5, ST46, and Mutant are going to be going into most of the time. So they're very, very strong. You know, obviously Beast being the best one in my personal opinion. And then, you know, Arsenal and Mist can be a bit situational, but there are times when they do come up and they're pretty relevant. So we do play all 3 of them, and then we just play 2 of the one that's the most relevant, which in this case is obviously Beast. So that rounds out the Mutant monster lineup. Now we're going to be diving into the Ghotis, of which we play 2 copies of Paces and 2 copies of Shift. Paces and Shift we play at 2 ofs a piece, simply because they're the best ones to banish off of your mutant effects, since during the next standby phase after they're banished, they will special summon themselves, and if they special summon themselves during the opponent's turn, they are able to quick sync into fish synchro monsters, which is obviously very strong, so that's why we play 2 and 2. Paces has an effect where he can banish himself from the field to special summon a fish from hand. However, that does seldom come up. And then you have Shifts. He does have a graveyard effect where you can target a fish you control, banish the shift from grave, and then that fish gains 500 attack to the end of the turn. Now, again, not that relevant. However, like I said, you're going to be banishing these cards most of the time off of your mutant cards, and this is where you generate a lot of your advantage, because these cards actually do plus you when banished, given that they come back on the next standby, and help you make synchro plays, which is something Mutant didn't even previously have access to. So the 2 and 2 ratio, in my opinion, is perfect. Both cards are hard ones per turn, so having duplicates of them does sometimes hurt, which is why we're not maxing out at 3. Up next is 1 copy of Zep, followed by 1 of the brand new Keef, and 1 Sykes and 1 Snopios. Now, these remaining Ghotis, they're all just one-ofs, even including the new ones. Now, the reason for this is that these cards, again, they're all hard ones per turns. Zep, in my opinion, used to be the worst one, but now with the release of Sykes and Keef, Zep does get a lot better. I actually did consider bumping this up to a 2 of, but for the time being, I've been playing it at 1 and it's been working out great for me. But effectively, Zep has 2 effects. The first effect is that you can banish it from this card from the hand to then target a fish in grave and banish it. However, again, that seldom comes up. The more important effect is that during your opponent's turn, if this card is banished, you can special summon it and then immediately go ahead and quick synchro into a fish synchro monster using this card you control, which is obviously really strong. So it works different from how Paces and Shift work, because Paces and Shift lets you quick sync during the opponent's main phase of a turn that they're special summoned. But Zep is a trigger effect, so the moment he does get specialed, he syncs immediately, which is interesting. Then you have Keef. Keef's one of the new ones out of Phantom Nightmare. So we just play 1 of it. If you control a fish monster, you can special it from the hand. However, something to note about Keef is that he is not a tuner, which is obviously very interesting. What Keef allows you to do is that he's another trigger effect, and oftentimes a lot of players refer to this as SP Little Fish. You know, as a pun towards SP Little Knight, because that's kind of how he works. So if the opponent special summons a monster, what you can do is you can target that monster and one of your banished level 6 or lower fish monsters. You can banish the Keef in the targeted monster on field, and then special summon your banished level 6 or lower fish. And then during the next standby phase after the Keef was banished, he does come back to the field just like all the other Ghotis do. Then you have Sykes. Now Sykes is the most pushed Ghoti card I've read so far. Honestly, probably the best card, period, in the theme, right next to Ariompos, and that's in the extra deck. But the only reason, again, why we're playing 1 of Sykes is because you can easily access the 1 of through the Ariompos, and it's like once you have the Sykes in rotation, you can constantly just keep recycling it from the banish zone over and over again. So playing multiples just seems kind of redundant, especially since it's a level 6 Ghoti, and because of that, it does make it a little bit bricky when you draw it. Especially because, you know, you need other cards to facilitate getting it to the board. But pretty much what it does is that if it's normal or special summoned, you can add a fish monster from the deck to your hand except himself. So it's pretty much just a Rhoda for fish, which is insane. And then in addition to that, once you do that, then you can banish a fish monster from your hand or face-up field. So not only does it get you a search for a fish, but then allows you to banish a fish from the hand or field, which could even be the one you just searched. In addition to that, if this card gets banished, you can banish a fish monster from your hand, graveyard, or face-up field to special summon the Sykes, which is just so cool. Like, honestly, Sykes is just such an insane support card, and it's so nice to see both Keith and Sykes finally in GHOTI, kind of shoring up some of their weaknesses and increasing the deck's overall ceiling, as well as resiliency to hand traps and whatnot. And then to round out the GHOTI lineup, we just played one copy of Snopios. Obviously, Snopios is still pretty good in the deck, but again, we only play one of it because it does require setup. So, like, opening this card by itself doesn't get you very far, obviously, but he's still a great card overall, allowing you to banish 2 fish monsters from your hand and or graveyard to then special himself. And then, obviously, if he's banished, you can banish a... excuse me, you can banish a fish from your graveyard and then add the Snopios back to hand. So again, just helping you kind of keep banishing a good stream of GHOTIs in the banish zone, so you can constantly keep having resources every single turn. So again, that rounds out the GHOTI lineup. Now, up next is something that I've been testing with, and it's an interesting tech choice. Just came out of the brand new Maze of Millennia set, and what we're doing is we're playing a small Earthbound package, which consists of 3 copies of Earthbound Prisoner Groundkeeper and 3 copies of Earthbound Prisoner Stone Sweeper. Now, the reason why we're playing both of these cards is simple. Obviously, the mutants are psychics, and we're generally special summoning them either off of E-Telly or off of the mutant field spell, which we are maxing out on. We'll talk more about that once we get to the spells. Which means that you're not usually burning your normal summon on the mutant cards most of the time, which means that the deck has pretty much an open spot for a good normal summon engine, especially a normal summon engine that allows you to make level 6 synchros. Now, why is this important? Well, simple. These cards allow you to make an Arion Post, which is pretty much the GHOTI's best, card to jumpstart their lines. And these cards do it off of a single normal summon. Now, what's interesting is that Prisoner Groundkeeper, upon normal or special, allows you to special summon a level 5 or lower Earthbound monster from your deck or graveyard except himself, which is obviously very clean. So you normal summon Groundkeeper, and that allows you to special the Prisoner Stone Sweeper from your graveyard or your deck. Obviously, the Groundkeeper is a level 1 tuner, and the Stone Sweeper is a level 5 non-tuner. 1 and 5 make 6. That's how you get to Arion Post. But what's interesting is that most of these cards that, or when you normal summon, fetch you some kind of other extender. Usually, if you draw that extender, it's considered a garnet or a brick. But in this case, it's not, because the Stone Sweeper, if it's in your hand, you can actually discard it to then add a level 3 or lower Fiend monster tuner from the deck to your hand. So, you can pitch Stone Sweeper to search Groundkeeper, then normal Groundkeeper, and then either grab the Stone Sweeper that you pitched from the graveyard, or just grab another one from the deck. And that allows you, again, to make a level 6 synchro off of just a single normal summon. And then even if it does die to disruption, you still get to keep the Groundkeeper on board, who's at least a level 1 tuner that you can make additional plays with if need be, which is obviously very strong. Not only that, but Stone Sweeper also has a really cool effect where if there's a field spell card on the field, the Stone Sweeper can just special summon itself from the hand for free. So honestly, this package is extremely strong. I've seen some other deck lists try out the Supei package or Super Heavy Samurai lines to get to the Arion Posts. Obviously there's also runic cards that get you there as well, but I found that the Earthbound cards have just been the best way to get to Arion Posts in, with the most minimal amount of resources. So that's why we're playing this package in this deck, and like I said, it's been working out absolutely great, so I have no complaints there whatsoever. Then again, moving on with the monsters, we just have a playset of Droll and Lockbird, followed by the 1 copy of Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit. Again, Droll, this format is just insanely strong, so you want to be maxing out on this in the main deck. And then we're just playing 1 copy of Ghost Ogre, not only because it's a decent hand trap against certain matchups, but it's a tuner psychic that we can special off E-Telly if need be, since a lot of our mutants, obviously, well, not a lot of them, but all of them are non-tuners. at least this gives us tuner access off of E-Telly if we needed it in a pinch. So that explains that. Now that rounds out the monster lineup. Now we're going to be diving into the spells, of which we play 3 copies of the Mutant Evolution Lab, which is the mutant field spell. Upon activation, it allows you to special a level 4 or lower mutant from your hand or that's banished. In addition to that, you can actually reveal a mutant monster in your hand once per turn, place it on the bottom of the deck, and then draw a card. This is designed to help get the level 8s, the boss monsters, out of your hand if you do draw them, which is very, very strong. And then it also has a really interesting attack boosting effect, but again, that doesn't really come up. The main purpose for this card is just to special summon your mutants from the hand or banish zone, and it does a great job at that. Plus, because we're maxing out on this, if we do have Stone Sweeper, the Earthbound card, we can just special Stone Sweeper for free and put a free level 5 body on board with no cost. So then, moving on, we do play a playset of E-Tellys, pretty self-explanatory. These are just there to special summon the mutants from deck for free. Then we play 1 copy of Mutant Fusion. Obviously this is very strong, especially if we're going second, because if the opponent activates any cards or effects this turn, we can pretty much go, it's like a Miracle Fusion at this point, letting us use material from the deck and the graveyard to fuse, which is very strong. Then we also play 1 copy of Gold Sarcophagus, again, just an insanely powerful one-of that can be used to banish kind of whatever we need. If we got to banish a Ghoti, we can banish a Ghoti. If we need to banish a mutant, we can do that as well to recover it off of the field spell and just keep extending. So 1 copy of Gold Sark, and then we round out the spells with just the 1 Called by the Grave, again, just to be able to play through hand traps. Now moving on to the traps, we're on 2 copies of Mutant Cry, pretty much how we're going to be fusion summoning into the Mutant Fusion monster. Think of this card like a Tri-Brigade Revolt, but for mutants, so very strong there. And then we also play 1 copy of Mutant Clash, which is pretty much an in-archetype in Infinite Impermanence. But also, if a level 8 or higher mutant you control destroys the monster by battle, you get to draw a card as well. Doesn't really come up all that often, but sometimes it does. And then we round out the last of the main deck, again, 43 card list. We're just playing 3 Infinite Impermanence as the other hand trap of choice in this particular deck. So that rounds out the main board. Now we're going to be jumping into the extra deck, of which we're playing 2 copies of Mutant Synthesis. Now, we're not playing Ultimus, and the reason for that is because I've tested this deck a lot, and I found that Ultimus doesn't really come up as much as I would like. In the situations where it does, we're usually already winning those games anyway. So Ultimus, to me, just feels kind of win more. I feel like the 2 Synthesis are just far better simply because they're just much easier to make. And in my opinion, I'd rather have the Disruption than a situational Omni Negate. So that's just my opinion. Obviously, some of you guys may think otherwise, but I think the 2 Synthesis has been working out great, especially since you can make Synthesis with another Synthesis, as long as the other material is a different attribute. So I thought that was kind of cool as well. Obviously, it's a pop on summon. It floats upon destruction, and then as a quick effect, it can make itself immune to any card or effect that you chain to for the rest of the turn, which is obviously very strong. So those are the only fusions we play. Now we move into the synchros. We're on 2 copies of Aeolpos, best card in Ghoti's hands down. Upon its synchro summon, lets you banish a level 6 or lower fish from deck. And then if it's sent to the graveyard as synchro material, you can target a fish in grave, banish that target, and then if you do, you add a fish from with an equal or lower level from the deck to your hand. So think of this card as a double banish plus a Rhoda on top of it, which is just huge. So 2 copies of Aeolpos. So again, we do go into this off of the Earthbound line most of the time. Then we have 1 copy of Coral Dragon, just for those times where we don't need to go into Aeolpos and we need something a bit more proactive. Plus, it's also a tuner, which, if we have non-tuners, we can just use Coral Dragon to synchro climb. Then we're playing 1 copy of Deep Sea Prima Donna, again, another tuner synchro that can help us synchro climb and extend into waters from the deck, which is huge. We're going into this generally off of like a Stone Sweeper plus any Ghoti. So that's how we make the Prima Donna, for those of you curious. Then we're on 1 copy of Ascan, the Bicorn Ghoti, 1 copy of Google Him. I know a lot of people don't play this card, and to be fair, it's not that great. I mean, there are some scenarios where Google Him shines, but we're mainly just playing this just to have a different level 8 fish synchro to go into that's not Ascan. But then we also play the White Aura Whale, and then we round out the last level 8 synchro with the Adamancer Risen Dragite. So obviously, Ascan's nice target spot removal. Google Him is just a very nice removal in the battle phase, and then White Aura Whale is a nice board wipe, and then Dragite's just a very good spell, Trap Negate. Then we do play 1 level 9 synchro, and that is our copy of Virtual World QB Shen. We make this generally off of either the copy of the Groundkeeper plus any mutant boss. There's also other lines we can go into this off the Deep Sea Prima Donna plus any level 2 non-tuner, which could be MO5 or Keef. But yeah, Shenshin's obviously just a very strong card, especially in this particular deck. So definitely helps when we can go into that. Then for our 10s, we do play 1 copy of Chengying. And then right now we're on double copies of Ghoti the Deep Beyond, which is the Ghoti boss monster. I have thought about cutting this to a 1-of, but there has been a few times in testing where having the second one has gotten me out of a few jams. But I do feel like there are, most of the time you should be able to get away with just playing 1 of this, which means you could replace sub this card with like maybe like a Baron de Fleur, for example, if you wanted to, or any other synchro of your choice. But so far, double copies of Deep Beyond has been working out great for me. The entire field banish is just so strong against any deck you face. It's not something to be, taken for granted. And then to round out the last extra deck card is just 1 copy of Psychic End Punisher. We're generally making this off of the Mutant Synthesis, since it's a 9, plus any Ghoti. And then obviously Pep is just insane, doesn't need any introduction. A lot of you should know what this card does. So that rounds out the extra deck. Again, definitely up to personal preference, but so far I think the ratios are spot on. I mean, with the exception of maybe like Google Him, if you don't want to run that, you could sub that for like maybe just a second Ascan, for example. And then, like I said, if you want to cut the second Deep Beyond, that's entirely up to you as well, and replace it with any other synchro of your choice. But now we're going to be moving into the side deck. Again, side deck is up to personal preference. I'm choosing to play a small Bestial package of 1 Magnamut and 2 Druis Worm. Again, depending on the deck you're going up against, the Bestials can be hugely impactful, and they just pair so nicely with Ghotis to help you make level 8 synchros, obviously. We also play we mainboard 1 Ghost Ogre, but we side the other 2, just for matchups where Ghost Ogre does come up and is relevant. Then we also side double Soul Release. Again, this card is huge this format, just being able to hose the living crap out of Fire King. Snake Eye is obviously very strong. Then we do play the second copy of Mutant Fusion for those games where we are forced to go second specifically. Having the second Mutant Fusion does help breaking boards by going into Synthesis. Then we have the 1 Duster for our back row matchup. And then to round out the rest of the side is just a playset of Evenly Matched, again, to help going second, followed by a playset of Skill Drain. Skill Drain is nice because I feel like we play a deck that plays very nicely under this, given that all of the mutants, banish themselves and tribute for cost, which means that we can still resolve our mutant effects under Skill Drain without any issues, which is obviously very cool. So that rounds out the side, again, up to personal preference. But like I said, guys, this is my update for Mutant Ghoti for the post-Phantom Nightmare format. So let me know what you guys thought. Leave comments down below. If you guys want to see combos and test hands, let me know in the comments as well. Like the video if you haven't done so already, and subscribe if you're not subscribed. Again, we're working our way to 1,500 subs, and I need your help to get there. But with that being said, stay tuned on the channel. You don't want to miss out on any more of my uploads. I'm going to be bringing you even more post-Phantom Nightmare content, so stay tuned for updates to my Ninja Crawler deck list, along with a few other spicy surprises. And then as well, if you haven't checked out my Evil Eye Yubel deck profile, that is also post-Phantom Nightmare. I uploaded that about a few days ago on the channel. Check that out below if you guys are fans of Yubel. The Evil Eye variant that I came up with is really, really cool, and it's just a lot of fun to play. So with that being said, this is Nick, hitting that end phase. Peace.